Hello everyone. I have this quilt top set up on top of my ping pong table so that I can go ahead and pin the quilt sandwich together. Last night I started out with the quilt sandwich, tying off everything because somebody said it'd be a good idea to tie off, so I decided to experiment with that. But now I am cutting out all of the ties because I just didn't like the way that was going, and it was going very slow. I find it much faster to just use these guys right here and just pin it down before I go and quilt it. Now, if I were just going to tie off my quilt and not quilt the top, then it would make more sense to me to go ahead and tie it off. But I don't think it really makes sense to tie off a quilt when you're going to free motion quilt the top anyhow. So anyhow, also one other thing is I went to Joann's and I found some fabric to go as the backing for this quilt, but it was not wide enough. So I ended up using an old bed sheet that I found to go ahead and to use as the backing. So I'm not sure if I'm really a fan of quilting that much. I know that most of you guys do quilt. So for that reason, I decided that I needed to at least make one quilt on this channel, and this is it. I'm not much of a fan. The reason I say that, I know that you guys will probably hate me for my comment, but the reason why I don't really like quilting that much is because, one, it's costly. Finding all of these different materials for the quilt was not cheap. I think I don't even want to say how much money I spent making this quilt, but each individual material was not cheap. And also I would say that it was fun. I must admit it was fun going and buying all of the different fabrics for the project. But because of the cost, even with 50% off coupons, it was way too expensive for me. And for that reason, I got more so into doing crochet, because I think that crochet is a little bit more cost efficient than quilting at the moment. And you guys will probably say, well, the yarn is expensive. You might spend $10 for yarn. But even if I spend $10 on 3 bundles of yarn, I've still spent far less than what I spent on this quilt. Because you not only have to buy all of the fabrics, you also have to buy the material that goes into the middle of the quilt sandwich. Plus you have to buy your backing or find your backing. And that all adds up. But for me personally, I really don't plan on buying that much yarn. I mostly am recycling old t-shirts and making things from t-shirt yarn. T-shirts that I already have laying around, and also from projects where I use knit fabrics. I find it quite effective to turn all of that into yarn that I can crochet with, and I think that's more cost effective than this. Now, if I have a bunch of scrap cotton materials laying around, then I will cut them up and make quilt blocks out of them. But to say that I will buy a pre-made quilt pattern and spend all my time making this pre-made quilt pattern where I have to buy all these different fabrics to match, I really don't think that I want to do that from now on. But what do you guys think? Do you think that it makes sense to spend money on quilts like that? Or do you still enjoy it anyway in spite of it being as expensive as it is? One other thing that I think about when I'm thinking about this whole quilting thing is that you don't have to make quilts like you used to back in the day, because now most people, not all people, but most people have air conditioning and heat. So if you have heat in the wintertime, what do you need a quilt for? You don't need to stack up several quilts. And me personally, like, what am I gonna do? Like, if I were to quilt full time as a hobby or whatever, what would I do with all those quilts that I made? Give them away to friends and family? Huh? But me, I don't really see giving them away to friends and family when you spent so much money making it. Just unless you have a ton of dispensable income to do that. Because generally speaking, I don't give that expensive of gifts to people. If I do give people gifts, but I don't give people gifts that expensive. And plus, you got to think about how much time it took you to put into it. Not only the materials that you had to purchase, but I know that a lot of you like quilting because the YouTube back end tells me that the vast majority of you are quilters. So I decided that I needed to go ahead and at least make one quilt, since the vast majority of my audience quilts. That way I can better serve you when it comes to doing these reviews on the sewing machines. I want to make sure that I have a full grasp of what it is that you want in a sewing machine, and I can't fully understand that unless I have actually quilted something. So that's why I chose to go ahead and work on this project. Now I'm going to use this material right here for the binding, but I'm not quite sure how to do the binding. Do you all piece your binding together, or do you make continuous binding tape? I typically, when I'm making garments, I make continuous tape, but does it make sense to do continuous bias binding on a quilt? I'm not so sure, but it might just be quicker. I don't know, y'all. I'm not much of a chatter, so it's kind of weird to do a YouTube live like this, but it's just what I'm doing for the moment. I figured that I would walk along with you a little bit on this while I'm working on pinning this all down. It takes forever to pin all this stuff together too, and I just don't have time. Y'all, I don't have time to do this. I got plenty of things to do. Now you really need a lot of space to be able to move the quilt around. I really don't have any floor space or anywhere other than this to be able to lay out the quilt to pin it down. So hopefully there's no bubbles in this. I'm hoping there's not no bubbles. And if you're interested in having a ping pong table for your projects, then I will leave a link to that down in the description. And I also have a blog article over on my blog talking more about my ping pong table setup. I just have the ping pong table here, and I have it set up on some bed risers just to make it to my height. And I know that for ergonomic setup, you want your height of your desk to be about at hip height or at handshake height. So when I put my hand out like this to shake your hand, the table should pretty much line up with that, and that's how I have it. Before I did that, my back was hurting me so bad, and I just had to go to the store and get me some risers. Now at first I tried to be cheap and get risers that aren't adjustable, but you really do need adjustable risers when you are getting them for your table setup. So that way you can make it adjust to your height without having to improvise. And y'all, I don't normally say anything on the live on audio, but I do try to comment down in the chat. So I will be trying to respond to you guys down in the chat some. Normally I would be doing this while watching some sort of TV or something, but I'm not doing that right now. Right now I'm into watching the MacGyver show and the new version of MacGyver, not the older one. I like that TV show, and I could probably, it's one of the shows that I could watch more than one time. What about y'all? What type of series are you guys watching at the moment? And never mind my space. My space is a bit of a mess right now because I have multiple projects going on at the same time and nowhere to really store them. So they're just kind of everywhere in my sewing space. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I've been thinking about another channel here a lot today because I saw her video and it upset me to see her upset. Angela Jasmina has been struggling with her business as of late, and I think that a lot of people are struggling right now because these prices on everything at the grocery store has gone up exponentially, and the cost of gas and everything else has also gone up, along with insurance. And if you're a small business owner, the amount of taxes that you gotta pay is wild. So I can understand why less people are buying things right now, and we all of us creators are having to work extra hard to make the same things that were happening before happen, because less people are actually purchasing things from us. And that does happen in times when there is economic trouble. People have less disposable income to spend on things that they will want, but things that they don't necessarily need. And I don't necessarily think that at the moment people are really caring to pick up a lot of just for fun embroidery items. Right now I'm trying to work on figuring out what I want to carry in my shop next, and I'm not gonna let the downturn affect me that much. I'm just gonna have to make things to order rather than pre-making them, because when I had my painted tree shop, and there is a video here on my channel about painted tree, I made a lot of pre-made items, and that was one of my biggest mistakes, because you don't know what items are going to be a hit and which ones are going to be a miss. And if you purchase up a bunch of inventory and make up a bunch of stuff and people don't buy that item, then you've lost money. And it takes a lot of space to try to hold on to all of that inventory. And you might be holding on to that inventory for a very long time until it gets sold, unless you are to just offload that and take a loss. So that is one of them things that is important to know, especially if you're a new business owner. Don't really hold too much stuff in your inventory. And I know that that can be hard, because sometimes you might be afraid that you will get an order, like if you're Etsy seller or Amazon seller, that you might get an order on one of these sites and then not be able to fill the order because the item that you want to stitch on is no longer available. And that's one of them things that I always worry about too. And you don't necessarily have the money to just go right out and just buy a whole box of, let's say, tees in all these different sizes, and then you don't know whether or not that item is going to sell. You might be holding on to that item for months or even years. So that's just one of them things. Now you could just pick like maybe 2 or 3 colors of something to have, like a black and a white, is always going to be something that sells. So if you get those and get a medium, a large, and an extra large in the sizes, and then skip some of the less common sizes, then you might have some luck. And then if you have pre-made designs, you can stitch out one of the designs on one garment, and then if you get sales in other sizes, then you can just make them to order, so that way you haven't wasted inventory. And then if that particular item that you made or that particular design that you made isn't popular and doesn't sell, then you can print a different design on the same shirt and still not lose out on money, because you had already stitched out that design on a garment that didn't sell. So those are some of the things that I learned the hard way, very hard way, when I was working or when I had my painted tree shop. And I was thinking about perhaps selling at flea market, but I haven't made the decision to do that as of right now, because it takes a lot of my time to edit my content. And I know I have a lot more content coming up that I want to make, because there are some new machines releasing this summer. So that's part of the reason why I had decided not to do the flea market as of yet. But maybe someday, I don't know. I do not know. Are there any particular videos that you all would like for me to cover? I know that some people have requested certain videos from me, and I'm just waiting for the right time to make those. Some of them won't get made, but a few of them will. It just takes a ton of time to edit and to research. It takes a lot of research to make good videos, or videos that are informative enough. And I know that a lot of people might say, okay, well, why didn't you buy this item to test out? I don't have that kind of money, y'all. I don't. Maybe if you gave it to me, then I would. But I oftentimes will go to stores and actually test drive machines. And I'm having to go farther and farther out of my way to test drive machines, because I don't want the shop owners to really know who I am and what my channel does. And I want to be able to objectively test a machine without any output from others, and to be able to give an unbiased review of that particular item. So I jump around a lot to different shops to test out the machines, and some of those places have been quite nice to me and helpful, and others have not. What has been your experience with going to local machine shops? Are the owners friendly, or are they not? I know that there was this one shop that I went to. I was super surprised by how they treated me. As soon as I came in the store, they acted like they were suspicious of me. And I'm like, I do not look like somebody who would be suspicious. And I just came in and I was like, I want to look at a serger, because I was looking at the Baby Lock anniversary serger that's in that kind of mint green color, because at one point I had thought about reviewing it, but I ended up not doing it. I just ended up not doing it after what happened, because I just didn't want to drive to a whole different machine shop to test that machine out. But anywho, they acted like they were suspicious of me and followed me around in the store, and it just didn't feel like a very friendly environment. And I wanted to ask questions about the machine, but every time that I asked questions, they said, oh, we're going to have to wait until such and such comes in. And I was thinking, like, why are they not trying to help me? At another point, I went down the road to another shop. They didn't have Baby Lock in this particular shop that I went to on that same week, but they had a different brand. So I went in there to shop, and they were super helpful and super friendly to me. However, I got a small glimpse of perhaps why those shop owners in the other shop felt suspicious of me, because some random guy came in off of the street into that shop while I was shopping, and he had some sort of something burning in his bag, and they asked him to put that out, and he was like, oh, this is this such and such scent. And I'm thinking, who in their mind goes into a store burning incense in a bag? Like who does that? I don't know. It just seemed kind of off to me. But I in no way seemed like some person off the street coming to burn incense in somebody's store. I was just a genuine shopper, so I'm not understanding what the problem was. But hey, I guess you experienced a little bit of everything. And they seem to assume that I wouldn't have the money to purchase the machine, or that I didn't know how to use the machine and didn't know nothing about it. Even though I got this whole channel. They don't know nothing about my channel, but you can't really assume things about people. Assume that somebody don't know how to use a serger, or assume that they don't know how to use a sewing machine, or assume that they don't have the money to purchase something, because you never know. I learned that when I was working in sales long ago. You can't really judge a book by its cover. Does it deter you all from purchasing a machine if the people in the shop are not friendly towards you, and there's no other shops in the local area that could service your machine? Like, say for example, if you I'm just throwing a brand out here, it has nothing to do with this brand, but if you were to purchase a Baby Lock from a local dealer or if you wanted to purchase a Baby Lock from a local dealer, and you went there and they were unkind to you, would that cause you to not purchase that particular machine because there's no other shop in your local area? I know for me it would, because if there's only one Baby Lock place in my whole local area, and when I went in there, they weren't friendly to me. So for me, that made me go and right down the road and find me a Viking or some other brand, either Viking or Bernina, or really anything other than that brand. Even though I might like that brand and like those machines, I probably wouldn't, because I know that I would have trouble with getting it serviced. I really don't even know if I'm doing a good job with this, but I am doing my best with it. Because some of these are not spaced correctly. I guess I'll work it out. Well, guys, I don't want to bore you all while I'm just sitting here and pinning all of this stuff together. So I'm going to go ahead and head out. And I thank you guys for watching my live and my ramblings and rantings. Well, I hope that you all have a blessed rest of your day. And I will catch you on the next one. Peace.